Over the last 2 centuries, medical research has become very good at enabling older people to live longer. For instance, in the year 1816, the average 65-year-old would go on to live for just 11 more years, dying at the age of 76. But today, the average 65-year-old now lives to be 86, with many people living into their 90s or even 100s. But recently I talked with cardiologist Topol, who thinks all this focus on longer lifespans is actually the wrong way to think about things.
I think that this idea that we should all try to live to 100 or 120 is the wrong emphasis. You know, Katty, I could take a person and put them on life support today. They could be in coma, and I could keep them going for another 20 years. Okay? What is good is that? If we all could live to 85 totally intact, that would be a phenomenal advance. Let's extend Healthspan.
You talk about health span as much as lifespan. What's the difference between the two and why does it matter?
Well, we have this crazy fixation on lifespan, but that's the wrong objective. Because if you live to whatever age and you're not functional and you have a very debilitated condition, whether it's Alzheimer's or you're so profoundly frail, you know, what good is that? So what we really want to strive for is health span where you are intact. That is, you have no cognitive deficit, no neurodegenerative disease, you don't have any cancer, you don't have any cardiovascular disease, heart failure, that sort of thing. So getting to 85 without these conditions that are age-related, those are the big three, that should be our goal. All too often, people in their 60s have at least one. In the United States, we're talking about 95% have a chronic disease by the time they're 64. So if we keep extending the lifespan, that doesn't change that picture. So if we keep talking about things like we're going to get lifespan 100, 120, and people are not having a high quality of life, that just seems to me completely ludicrous.
My parents lived until their kind of mid-80s, and I definitely saw a decline in their health after 80. What needs to happen to allow people to live to whatever we want to put the number at? 90 years today, maybe in 10 years' time, we're going to be talking about 100 years, maybe in 30 years' time, we'll be talking about 110 years, whatever it is. But what would it take? What would be the medical breakthrough that needs to happen to make those last decades of life, that last decade of life, whatever the final number is, strong and healthy and vibrant and enjoying life to its fullest?
We should be able to prevent the big three age-related diseases. In fact, we're starting a clinical trial, randomized trial in the next couple of weeks to prevent Alzheimer's disease, which I'm confident we're going to get there. We're not going to completely eradicate it, but we're going to put a dent in it. And if so many people in their 80s are affected by Alzheimer's, and to see that they would maintain their cognition, that's step number one. Now, the same is for heart disease and for many cancers. We should be able to prevent them. The common thread across those three diseases is they take 20 years to incubate in our body. 20 years. And now, which we couldn't do before, we can find out who are the people at increased risk and when. So this is actually the striking thing. I might be able to say, oh, well, you're at high risk for developing a type of cancer. But I couldn't say when, whether it be at age 60 or 99. Now we can actually forecast. Medical forecasting in the world of AI is going to jump forward like a lot of people don't anticipate. So that's why I'm very keen on our ability to do primary prevention of the big three age-related diseases.
I mean, is it really just those big three? Because if we take out those three, let's say we take those three off the table and we're still going to die of something, how can we get to a point where up until the day we die, we're living a great life that's energetic?
Yeah. Well, that's what we'd like to get is, you just fall off the cliff, you're perfectly healthy.
Excellent.
Yeah, that would be ideal. I don't know that we'll get there, but we got to just close this
I want to
gap.
tick that box.
But The three I've talked about, Katty, account for 80–85% of the gap in health span and lifespan. So if we get to those, if we do a good job, we're going to close that. Now, the other thing is, you touched on this, being able to be physically active. And one of the big problems we have there is people have severe arthritis. And while that doesn't kill
Yes.
them, well, it doesn't kill them, but their lack of physical activity does hurt. That hurts their immune system function and many other, inflammation. So we've got to
And
get
their
on that.
enjoyment of life.
Exactly, exactly. If we can keep people mobile, that's going to make a big difference. And that's a big part of the quality of life. And it's a determinant of the quality of life. So,
Mm-hmm.
that we have to interrupt that vicious cycle.
Okay, I'm very glad to hear that, because I do feel like that is one of the things. It's sort of overlooked because it's not talked about as one of the big grand diseases that kill us, but I can see in a lot of older people I know what an impact that has. Okay, in the meantime, I scroll through my Instagram feed and I wake up in the morning and there is an awful lot of noise out there about proteins and cold plunges and things that are going to, make me feel like I'm living forever. If you had to cut through all of that social media noise, are there things that are being promoted by wellness gurus that actually do improve our health span?
So, exercise, both aerobic and some resistance training, it's free. Going for a brisk walk and, using some bands that are very low cost. You don't hear a lot of wellness influencers peddling those. In fact, the way to partition a pseudo person versus the real deal, if they're selling something like a supplement or a peptide or whatever, you just rule them out. We have pushers of high protein, ridiculously high protein, that actually not only we can't store it, so it just goes right out, but also if it's animal protein derived, it can be harmful, inciting inflammation, and also, of course, the problem with too many calories and gaining weight. There's no evidence for these supplements for promoting aging. People are being duped, and they're paying and buying all this stuff, and they're wasting their money. And if possible, some of it could do harm.
Do you, as we close, Dr. Topol, do you feel optimistic that enough is being done to distinguish between lifespan and health span? I mean, another way, I suppose, of putting this is that, are you concerned that the focus on the number, the focus on that final number, we're going to live to 100, we're going to live to 110, may be drawing attention away from the focus on the quality of life that we actually have?
I think that this idea that we should all try to live to 100 or 120, whatever that upper limit human span is the wrong emphasis. Because if we all could live to 85, totally intact, fully mobile, fully cognitively sharp, and everything else, that would be a phenomenal advance. That's the goal I aspire to, and I believe we will get there. Everyone won't be a super ager, but if we got the majority of people in that category of 85 plus, fully functional, and have a high quality of life, that's what we should be talking about. Change the conversation from this longevity hacking and stuff to the health span aspiration. I think it's doable, and it's something that is just not in the front of minds with this fixation that we have with this extent of lifespan. Let's extend health span.
Dr. Topol, thank you.
Really good to have this conversation with you. Thank you, Katty.